Good morning, PRüF community. It is February 12th, and we have another community update for you. Okay, so of course the big news is the listing coming up on the 15th. We're excited about that, and we're counting on the P2B, B2B folks to get that integration finished and get that up and running. So there are some changes to the staking system coming up, and this is going to be real important. First of all, the first thing is that we do have a lottery drawing in celebration of PRüF of the listing, and so there's a 21% stake of 100,000 PRÜF. That's a 100,000 PRÜF stake at 21%, and we're giving that away. What we're going to do is that basically we're going to take all of the addresses, anybody that holds a stake token, anyone who has staked their PRÜF and holds a current stake token as of March 14th. So we're going to do the drawing on March 15th, but anyone who holds a stake token as of March 14th will be automatically entered into the drawing. So yeah, the number of stake tokens you hold, all of those tokens will be entered into the drawing. So the more stake tokens you hold, the more entries you have in the drawing. And like I said, that's going to be March 15th, 2 p.m. UTC. That's when the drawing is going to be. So that's a 100,000 PRÜF, 21% APY token, and that's going to be given away on March 15th. To be eligible, make sure you have some PRÜF staked by March 14th, 2022. Okay, so anyway, changes to the staking system. Yes. Okay. So the standard or the special, I should say, because it's not standard at all. The special 21% tier that has been open here since we started EO staking is going to be closed as promised as of the 25th of February. So the 25th of February, the highest staking tier is going to be several points below 21%, and so those 21% staking people that have staked at 21% will be grandfathered in. And just a reminder, those staking tiers, it's a stake token, so whatever you staked at, that stake token is good until you cash it out. So as long as you hold that token, you are eligible for those staking tiers, whatever staking tier you signed up at. So that's something to keep in mind. After the 25th, the only way to get into a 21% tier will be to buy a stake token from somebody on an NFT marketplace. So that'll be the only way to get into a 21% tier after that point. Okay, so that once again, just a reminder, that's going to be through the 25th. It'll still be there. After the 25th, it will not be there. We'll be letting in some new staking tiers, and the 21% tier will be going away. Okay, so I just wanted to give a shout out to some of our community members that have been setting up local events in their local communities for PRÜF. Extremely exciting stuff. We've been publishing that, of course, in the chat, so many of you are already aware of this, but I just wanted to give a shout out and a personal thank you and congratulations on the part of the PRÜF team for your hard work and your dedication to the project. Okay, so other big news, the team has decided to move their token unlock to 2023. So basically, none of the team tokens will be unlocked in 2022. They will all start being unlocked progressively over a 4-year schedule starting in 2023. Our literature will soon be updated to reflect that change, but right now it's still saying 2022, but we have decided to move it to 2023, and we're in the process of getting our various literature updated. We should have that done by next week. Okay, so the lottery drawing, we already covered that. Okay. Oh yeah, we got some other news here. Cameron Hejazi, I hope I'm saying his name right. Cameron Hejazi, the CEO and co-founder of Cent, shut down the majority. Cent is an NFT marketplace. Actually, Cent is the NFT marketplace that sold Jack Dorsey's tweet for $2.9 million. I'm sure you all remember when that was big news. Jack Dorsey made an NFT of his first tweet and sold for $2.9 million on the Cent marketplace. Anyway, Cameron Hijazi, the CEO and co-founder of Cent, shut down the majority of NFT minting and sales on the Cent platform, citing rampant fakes and plagiarism. Now, this is not anything new. Of course, at PRüF, we've known that there's huge problems with legacy NFT protocols, and the platforms have just basically been ignoring that and just making money off of letting people, not intentionally, I suppose, but letting people continue to operate, producing copied NFTs and falsified NFTs. And that's obviously something that PRüF was designed to address and continues to improve its traction in that area. But I just wanted to applaud Cameron's courage in the face of what could only be described as an excruciating decision for a CEO of an NFT minting and sales platform. We feel that his courageous act speaks volumes about his integrity. Of all the trading that's going on, he was the first. Let's remember that Cameron was the first to come forward and say, "Hey, enough is enough. We're now seeing evidence that over 70% of the NFTs being traded on platforms are false. Let's just call it. Let's fix this before we move forward. We can't just continue to sell fake stuff for real money on our platform." So I just wanted to say, hats off to you, Cameron, for stepping up, being the first to come out and say, "Hey, this is a real problem. We need to deal with this." And I think that this speaks volumes about his integrity, and I would expect the integrity of his project and team since he is a co-founder. Of course, like I said, PRüF solves these problems. We have reached out to Cameron and offered to help him integrate PRÜF, hopefully leading the industry out of the quagmire that it finds itself in with all these fake NFTs and the lack of any effective way to verify that something is minted by someone who's authorized to mint it. So anyway, I'm going to pause here for just a second, and then I've got a little presentation. We're going to go into some technical stuff here, and I hope I don't lose too many of you in the process, but I'll try to go through it in the easiest way possible. Okay, so when we're talking about PRÜF with people, and do bear with me here, I'm going to be reading a little bit of my notes in the process of this, and it's a fairly complex thing, so I'll be using the notes to keep me on track. I'll try to keep eye contact, but got a lot of notes to read. So anyway, one of the things that can be challenging, when we explain newcomers to the PRÜF protocol is why the PRÜF protocol is truly unique and why what's different about PRÜF matters so much, for the future of tokenization. A lot of times when we're talking about PRÜF, we talk about the different features. We have multiple permanent future-proof storage options, built-in business logic, built-in payment systems. We're a turnkey, no-code solution. We enable brands to mint verifiably genuine, brand-centric, and standards-compliant tokens. All these things are features of PRÜF, and those features are great, and they're very important, and they solve a lot of the problems in the industry. But there's more to it than that. There's something going on at a more basic level with PRÜF that's a little bit hard to explain, but I'm going to give it a shot here, and hopefully everyone will be able to follow me on this. So to begin to understand what I'm going to be talking about, let's talk about the way that legacy systems work, the way that standard ERC 721, 1155 protocol tokens work. When I'm talking about those 1155s and 721s, I'm talking about standard NFTs as we know them in the marketplace today. So, like I said, the ERC 721 protocol is the de facto standard for NFTs. Now, what ERC 721 does in practicality is to define the interfaces or the connectors, the ways of talking to a token contract. And that sort of implies the internal behavior of the token, the way the token works. So the ERC 721 interface creates connectors for the token. The connectors are like ways of checking balances, methods of transferring tokens. And these methods are standardized and codified as part of the ERC 721 standard so that tokens supporting these standard interfaces can be seen and can be acted upon, can be manipulated in, can be sold in common marketplaces, can be used by common wallets and other types of tools for manipulating tokens. And that's all by virtue of being compatible with this ERC 721 standard interface. Now, what the ERC 721 standard does not do is define how the token works internally, how that contract works internally. So it doesn't define any limits on the behavior of the token. Ultimately, it may suggest that, but just because an ERC 720 or just because a token can be manipulated by a platform that uses the ERC 721 interface doesn't give any guarantees about what that token actually represents or how that token actually works. So in order to know those things, you'd have to have a team of professional auditors inspect the contract code and verify what that token actually does and who has other controls of how that token works. It could be that token automatically self-destructs after a year and you wouldn't even know it. Just because it's ERC 721, doesn't mean that it won't do that. So you have to, in order to know anything about a token using the standard protocol, you would have to audit the code of the contract that generated the token. So obviously that's something that's outside the scope of what most lay people are prepared to do, and it's really outside the scope of what most companies really want to spend money on. Audits are very expensive from reputable companies to blockchain contract audits, extremely expensive. We're not talking about chump change here. It takes time, it takes money, and it takes a lot of effort. And still, there might be something hiding there that your audit team doesn't catch. So anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about. Let's make a simple analogy here. So let's define a standard that's sort of like the ERC 721 standard. So we're going to call this standard the ERC fruit standard. Let me grab some ERC fruit here. Hold on a second. Okay, so so here at the PRüF campus, we're lucky enough to have some wonderful fruit trees and a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and that's always a fantastic thing. So I thought I would use some of that as a prop here to help explain what I'm trying to talk about. So anyway, with our ERC fruit standard, we're going to define a set of interfaces, external and internal features for objects to support the ERC fruit standard. For example, let's set the following specifications. So each ERC fruit object must have a unique shape, size, and structure. It can't be precisely like any other fruit. It can be very similar. It can be superficially similar, but it's going to be slightly different. Each one is different. Each one's got its own exact internal structure. It's all unique because they're living things, and that's just like a serial number, right? It's unique. Each ERC fruit object has an owner. Whoever's holding or possesses the fruit, that is the owner. Each one has a stem, some stem where it's attached, where it was originally attached to the plant. And in our ERC fruit standard, we're going to use that stem. The stem can be manipulated to transfer the fruit to a new owner using the throw function, and we can specify the receiver. So using the ERC fruit standard, we can use the stem and say, I want to now throw this piece of fruit to Joe, and then using the throw function, we can transfer it to Joe. So that's just like the transfer function in ERC 721 or ERC 20. Now, in addition to that, ERC fruit standard supports a peel, it supports seeds, and of course it supports the tasty part, the exocarp and the fruit. So it defines all of these things about all of these characteristics must be present to have an ERC fruit compatible object. Now that's great. That means an apple is ERC fruit compliant, as is a cherry, a banana, an avocado, onions, potatoes. A lot of other things could be ERC fruit compliant if you really think about it. And that's all because they can be treated as roughly similar from a superficial standpoint. They all have these characteristics, and that makes them comply to the standard. But what guarantees does that standard really give us? You know, we have to think about what does the standard really give us for guarantees. So let's just say we want to make some lemonade. So if we're using the ERC fruit standard to make lemonade, and that's all we're using, and we accept any ERC fruit compatible object, you know, we might end up with guacamole, or we could end up with like onion juice, or maybe some sort of mixture of everything. That'd be not too great. So what are we gonna? How do we deal with that? So if we're using the ERC fruit standard, and that's all we have to go on, we're gonna have to trust the farmer. We're gonna have to check what kind of trees or plants he has, how fresh the fruit that he's going to deliver to us is going to be. We're going to have to know that he's not going to change his produce from one order to the next, that it's going to be always the same. And we're entirely reliant on this trust and this ongoing inspection or vigilance or checking to ensure the quality of our lemonade. You know, if we stop that, if we stop checking, we can end up with anything in there. So that's kind of how NFTs work right now. It's buyer beware. There's very little interoperability between platforms because the incentives are aligned against trust and they favor fraud. You know, so basically, NFT mentors have more to gain by being dishonest, by being bad actors, than they do by being legitimate. So that's how you end up with fake Banksy NFTs selling for $2 million. And that's why, really, most NFTs represent kind of a questionable value proposition as they stand, using the legacy protocols. Of course, with PRüF, it's really easy. It's trivial because we use nodes and minting authorities. It's trivial to know whether a given NFT asset is minted by brand X or some other entity. So this discourages fraud and bad actors because it's easy to identify. If my brand X is minting a Nike token, well, we can say, well, wait a second. Why is my brand.x minting Nike products? This obviously is not real. So it's self-evident in the PRüF system that something is, yes, belongs to the node that is minting the token, or if it is questionable or strange and needs to be verified or inspected further, or maybe needs to be just thrown out because it's obviously wrong. So that leads to something that's kind of extraordinary for PRüF assets: interoperability. You know, so let's just go over this. So let's go back to our NFT fruit example, for example. Okay, so here we have an NFT fruit compatible item, this pepper, right? It has a stem, it has a skin, it has the interior part, the edible part, it has seeds, it has all those characteristics of a ERC fruit object. And so does this, and so does this, so does this, or these have that too. Even this, even though it's underground, you know, well, like the onion too, right? And of course, you know, here we have an orange, right? That's ERC fruit compliant. So what's the difference? The difference is that with PRüF, if you're in the orange asset class and you order an orange, you're going to get an orange. So here you have an orange. This is like a healthy brand orange. So that would be a orange asset class asset in PRüF. Here's a tasty brand orange. You know, that one is in the same asset class, different minter, but still it's an orange. And that's the key thing. You're not going to get, in the orange asset class, you're not going to get an avocado. So with PRüF, you know what you're going to get, and you know who minted it, you know the brand it represents. All of those things are integrated into the protocol itself, so that you're not just depending on, you know, take my word for it. That's not a great way to do business. Well, just, you know, trust me, right? That's how we should do it. No, let's make it all verifiable, on-chain, auditable by anybody that wants to check it out, and we know how it happened, what happened, and how it happened, because it's all on-chain. Okay, so that's a little bit of how PRüF is different from the ERC fruit standard point of view, which is basically a pretty good analogy for the existing legacy token protocols, which just define very basic things and don't really even try to create any kind of promise of value. They're just like a generic blank check that could mean basically anything. So PRüF solves that problem, but there's something a little bit more interesting about it with the interoperability. Because this enables something to happen. Now, just like our lemonade making in the ERC fruit example, platforms can accept and utilize PRüF minted tokens in their own system, and they can use them with the same kind of trust as if they had minted them themselves. And they can do this without having to have intimate knowledge of the origin or organization that minted the token. And when they do it with strong assurances about the token's behavior and its security, because it all comes from the same contract. So when you utilize PRüF, you know exactly what it is that you're getting in that token. There's standards, and there's standards for upgrading, there's standards for maintaining, there's standards to ensure longevity, there's different storage standards. Everything is standardized, so you can look at it and say, okay, this is the standard it complies to, this is the information that I can expect, and this is the information that will be there, and this is the entity that made this token. So all of that information is there. Now, of course, how do you manage that? How do you manage that kind of a structure? Obviously, if PRüF was an NFT platform like OpenSea, well, we would just manage it in-house. We would just have records, and we would, check who is who, and we would just do our records thing, and that's how it would work. But PRüF is a protocol. So PRüF being a protocol means it's something that can be implemented by anybody. It's permissionless. Anybody can utilize PRüF. It's decentralized. Anybody can create a node and participate in the network. So how do you do that? And obviously, how do you manage? How do you deal with bad actors in the ecosystem? How do you deal with those kinds of challenges? And for this, we have to have a decentralized autonomous organization, or a DAO. This enables all of the stakeholders, node holders, token holders, asset holders, to participate in governance of the platform, so that everybody that has skin in the game has an opportunity to have a voice on the platform. So that's how we do that. That leads me into a conversation about DAOs. I would like to clarify that a little bit, because I think it's really confusing these days what a DAO is exactly. Just about like everybody's calling themselves a DAO now, and that kind of maybe is sort of true in most cases, sort of, kind of. In many cases, it's just not true. And in other cases, it's really stretching the definition of DAO. And I think that this is creating confusion and potentially, leading people away from what it means for PRüF to have a DAO. So I want to clarify this. So DAO means decentralized autonomous organization. Decentralized means that there's no central part to break. It's all made of a bunch of different pieces. Autonomous means it works on its own. It doesn't require anyone to operate it. And organization, well, it's an organization. That's pretty easy. Many organizations using the blockchain for governance are calling themselves DAOs. Many times, those are just blockchain-based organizations. They're not really using the blockchain to enact their governance. Or they're blockchain-based user-advised organizations. They're not really a DAO. So what is a DAO really? Well, first of all, for a DAO to be a DAO, it needs to be decentralized. That's the first actual word in what DAO stands for. It has to be decentralized. This can mean many things, such as physically decentralized, so it's got parts in different parts of the world, or it could mean, and that it makes it resistant to natural disasters, or it could mean genuinely decentralized, which is kind of what people expect when you're talking about a DAO, which is to say that it is permissionless, that anybody can participate, and there's no centralized authority. In the context of a blockchain DAO, it's kind of expected to suggest that the participants or governance of the DAO are not all from the same organization, company, or group, within the scope of the organization. So that gets kind of confusing. So let's talk about scope just a little bit. Like, for example, if you had a DAO to control your family finances, for example, it would be natural that all of the DAO members would be family members of yours, right? Because it's the family finances, so everybody in the family is a member of the DAO. And that would be normal. That would be properly decentralized, even though the only members of the DAO are from your family. Now, if the scope of the DAO was to control the taxation and spending budget for a city, it would not be very decentralized if all the members of the DAO were only the members of your family. So it matters the scope of the organization, of what it controls, what makes it decentralized or not decentralized. Obviously, the goal here in a DAO, generally speaking, is that the scope of control of a DAO and its voting membership, the people that have a voice in the DAO, should overlap. They should nearly completely overlap in a perfect world. Which is to say that a true DAO should be accessible to anyone who is a stakeholder. That's kind of the point of a DAO in its traditional meaning, at least. It's starting to shift a little bit. We're getting some weird things calling themselves DAOs, but a DAO is about a democratic organization where the stakeholders have a voice. Unfortunately, many DAOs that are in the wild today, or they're called DAOs, are either centralized to a single organization that has control of a much wider ecosystem. Some of them are invitation only. And some of them are just prohibitively expensive to participate in because you have to buy a $1,000 token to have a vote. Even worse, there's a new thing coming out that they call themselves a DAO, and it's not a DAO. It's just a game. People are starting to confuse DAO with a hybrid gamification model. And the purpose of these so-called DAOs that are really just games is just gamification of the DAO itself. It's just a recursive game of staking and making and generating more tokens in what could only really be described as a Ponzi scheme, maybe something else. I don't really know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have a specific legal definition of that, but it doesn't look good to me because these things aren't generating any value outside of themselves at all. So anyway, those things that are calling themselves DAOs many times are just a gamification of the DAO itself. It's a game, not a DAO that actually manages anything but its own gamification. So don't be confused. That's not what a DAO is. A DAO is a governmental system, a system of governance of something, not just a game where you change the rules to make more tokens. That's not what a DAO is. A DAO is a way for stakeholders to interact and lead a project, lead something forward, and create a prosperous ecosystem. That's the idea. So I digress. Aside from being decentralized, a DAO must also be autonomous. That's the second word in DAO. It has to be autonomous. So it can't mean only that it's a voting system, because a voting system is great, but somebody has to act on that vote and create something, have something happen. If it's just a voting system, it's just a decentralized organization. It's not autonomous. So for a DAO to be a DAO, it has to have no single entity solely responsible for enacting the will of the DAO. The DAO should enforce its decisions contractually within the system, automatically. It's an automatic organization, automated organization. It's not a manually operated organization. It's a DAO. So when it says decentralized, automated organization, so it has to be automated, or it's not a DAO. The DAO should enforce its will on-chain contractually through the contract code of the DAO itself. Otherwise, it's merely an advisory voting platform. For example, okay, let's just say a DAO decides to change the price of some business function X. It should adjust automatically. When the DAO makes the decision, it should be done. It's done. Nobody should have to be going, oh, well, the DAO decided to do this, so I'm going to change these things. Click, click, click. It's actually that guy that's in control. He's just deciding to go along with the DAO. That's not a DAO. That's just a decentralized organization that has a blockchain-based voting system, not a DAO. So anyway, if I seem passionate about this, it's because it actually matters. It really does matter what is a DAO and the function of DAOs in the blockchain ecosystem. And if we don't understand what it is, then a lot of people are going to be fooled into thinking that they're participating in something where they have a meaningful say, but they actually will have actually no voice at all, and they'll have been lied to. So let's not fall into that trap. A DAO, finally, should be permissionless for all stakeholders in a perfect world. Obviously, the world isn't maybe perfect, but the idea, the concept, the ethos behind a DAO is that it should be permissionless for all stakeholders. So if I'm a stakeholder, I shouldn't need anybody's permission to participate in the DAO. I'm a stakeholder. I hold tokens. I hold a node. In the case of PRüF, I can participate in the DAO, period. I'm part of the governance of the system because I'm part of the system. That's unfortunately not the case in most contemporary DAOs. But in the PRüF protocol, anyone who holds a PRüF node, holds PRüF tokens, holds PRüF asset, has a voice in the DAO. That's how it works. Okay, anyway. I'll try to calm down. Anyway, okay. PRüF brings provable legitimacy and enterprise-grade tokenization to an industry that's been absolutely shell-shocked by the explosive growth that tokenization has enjoyed in 2021. I mean, it just like blew up in 2021. Over $25 million in reported NFT fraud. That's reported fraud. Imagine how much is flying under the radar. I mean, I don't even want to guess about it, but I'm sure that it's way more than 25 million. You know, we've even had NFT issuance platforms, like I was talking earlier, decide to like basically shut the door on the vast majority of their business because they realize that it's more than 70% fraudulent. It's just crazy right now, and PRüF has answers to these problems. And you know, we are developing these solutions, and we're bringing them to mainnet here in the first quarter of this year, right after our audit. Oh, I didn't talk about our audit. That's another important thing that's going on. Right in the middle of we're with an audit in the middle of an audit with Certicay, and we're awaiting their first response, and then we'll address any problems that they turn up, and then we'll move forward with that. So, you know, these are things that we're directly addressing that are huge problems in this industry. PRüF is a long-term project that is designed to bring these needed features and needed assurances and needed trustability or trustless trustability to the tokenization marketplace, so that all of these, you know, Web3 things can advance, and we can maybe shed the whole scammy thing that's going on right now, where, you know, more than half the actors in the space are bad actors. So that's what we're doing. We're going to continue to do that. The PRüF team has redemonstrated its commitment to the long-term success of the project by moving the unlocking of the team's own tokens forward or back by 1 year to 2023, and yeah, that's what we're doing. We're getting ready to roll out the new staking interface and getting ready to roll out on mainnet here shortly. And I guess that's about it I've got for news for you today. So in the meantime, get real, get PRüF. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great day. Bye-bye.